The wait is finally over.
This one tournament could change my life right here, right now.
I think that I'm the best player at the table. That's the type of attitude you need to take.
It's been months since the last card was dealt. Tonight, the anticipation becomes the now.
Winning it all would be the most amazing part of my life. It's the main event. I mean, it's the #1 thing out there.
The 2012 World Series of Poker Main Event Final Table.
Being chip leader is amazing. I recommend it. You dream that someday you'll win the World Series of Poker. It's the biggest thing to us.
A chance for one player to move forward, to take a monumental leap into poker history, to become a main event champion. Let's go! Welcome to the 2012 World Series of Poker Main Event Final Table, presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Months of anticipation will finally reach its climax. 9 cheering sections out in full force to support one eventual champion. Hi everybody, Lon McCarran with Norman Chad and Kara Scott. Before joining the pomp and circumstance at the Penn and Teller Theater, the October 9 gathered in the Palazzo Suites at the Rio to catch up and size each other up. But now it's game time. $8.5 million to the champion, plus the gold bracelet desired by every poker player. One of the more boisterous sections belongs to chip leader Jesse Sylvia. But Maryland's Greg Merson is on everyone's radar.
He's probably the best player at this final table, but will he end up with all the chips?
Sylvia does come in as the chip leader.
You know, if he ends up with all the chips, maybe he'll buy Martha's Vineyard.
Texan Rob Salaburu hopes to make quick work of this group.
Well, this is No Limit Texas Hold'em. It would be nice to see someone from Texas as world champion again.
This group has been on cloud 9 for months, and tonight they come down to earth and play. A mostly young, mostly pro final table. Norman, put this group in perspective for us. What separates them from others we've seen?
This final table has something for everyone. Drama, Greg Merson gunning for Player of the Year, and Jake Balsiger trying to become youngest ever to win the main event. Personality, Rob Salaburu, Mr. Personality, fills that void all his own. But most of all, there's talent. 8 pros and would-be pros, plus commodities broker Michael Esposito. All of them gunning for the biggest commodity in poker, the main event bracelet.
All right, let's meet this year's final table.
Jeremy Ausmus, 33, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm truly living the dream, and my dream ends being world champion.
Jake Balsiger, 8th place. I want to become the youngest ever to win the main event.
Rob Salaburu, 7th place. I'll do some talking tonight, but my chips will have the last word. Michael Esposito, 44, playing for anybody who's ever had the dream.
Steve G, 5th place. I may be the oldest, but I have experience on my side.
Russell Thomas, 4th place. I think I've outworked everyone during the break. 8.5 million would be unreal.
Greg Merson, 24 years old, from Laurel, Maryland. I'm more so just taking it one hand at a time. Don't think too far in advance, just play the best that I can.
Andras Korknai, 2nd biggest deck. My plan, sit down and clean up the table.
Jesse Sylvia, chip leader. The wait is finally over, it's time to win a bracelet.
And so they reconvene to decide a championship. 9th place money already been paid to all of them. Top 7 earn at least $1.2 million. Jesse Sylvia, the chip leader. A jack tray of clubs folds to Rob Salaburu with 2 kings and a quick raise to $620,000.
Yeah, if you're putting together a team for a bank robbery, Salaburu is the guy you want driving the getaway car.
Folded over to Michael Esposito, ace-jack offsuit. The 44-year-old amateur had a birthday during the break.
It looks like he's about to be in a police lineup, and he's a little nervous about it.
I call.
I think everyone's nervous here. He makes the call. On the button is the youngest man at the table. 21-year-old Jake Balsiger folds to Jeremy Ausmus, who gives it up to the big blind Steve G, king, queen of clubs.
45 years poker experience. That's the entire life of Russell Thomas and Jake Balsiger combined.
G probably has some unpacked boxes still in his newly bought Las Vegas home. He calls for $320,000 more. 3 players will see this flop at this championship table. Deuce 5-10. G with a flush draw. He checks it over to Salaburu with the kings. Still best, but vulnerable. $1 million from Salaburu, a fold from Esposito.
You know, if it were up to Salaburu, he would put out a bet and pull in the pot at the same time to save time. Well, these two are on a collision course with that flop line. And they have some history now with Salaburu caught on camera making a derisive remark about G on day 7.
With his draw, G calls. Tray of spades. Salaburu's kings still lead. G missed his flush. And he checks again, and Salaburu checks. Free river card.
Well, Rob slows down. I guess he doesn't want to play a big pot early.
Another deuce. G now can only win it by pushing Rob off his hand.
This is the main event final table. We're looking at a 3 of spades on the turn and a deuce of hearts on the river. Come on, get me an action deck.
Everyone's just trying to warm up. A bet from G, a snap call from Salaburu, and he'll take that pot.
That's why you got to love Salaburu. He makes the call, just turns over his hand, doesn't even wait for G to table his hand. Turbo poker.
An early Huevos friend Charles moment for Rob Salaburu. Let's go down to Kara Scott now for a report on Salaburu and his history with Steve G.
Rob Salaburu told me that he is aware of the general reaction to his more in-your-face antics from the earlier days of the main event, but he's surprised by how polarized that reaction has been. He told me that people either really love him or they really want horrible things to happen to him, but there is a method to his madness. His table persona is actually part of his game. He uses table talk to put his opponents off their stride, to disrupt their game flow. But one thing that he actually does really feel badly about is having called Stephen G an idiot on day 7. This actually happened away from the table. It wasn't directly to Steve either, and he didn't really think it would be picked up like that. It was a heat-of-the-moment thing. He didn't mean it. He has apologized as well. He apologized as soon as he could. So there is a softer side to Rob Salaburu. In fact, a lot of the players at the table say they genuinely really like him. He's a lot of fun to be around, even if he is playing the villain. And Greg Merson even said, you know, a little trash talk at the table, it's not a bad thing.
He's no villain, and gives Salaburu credit. He owned up to the remark. He apologized to Steve G for it, and we move on.
And underway, Greg Merson opened for a raise to $700,000 with 10-8 of diamonds. Small blind Michael Esposito with suited king-queen.
You know, I was competing in a triathlon with Mike Esposito last week, and he called you an idiot, Lon, but no one made a big deal about that.
I got no phone calls either. Esposito made the call. Heads up, it'll be the Orioles jersey of Adam Jones, worn by Greg Merson and Michael Esposito. Jack King, 7, top pair for Esposito. Got shot for Merson. And Michael checks.
Not sure why Esposito is checking top pair. Merson says, I'd love a free one.
And he gets a free one. Turn card now. Deuce of diamonds. Esposito's still good, but Merson does pick up a flush draw. Now Esposito does bet $800,000.
That's a small bet with a straight draw and now a flush draw. Merson is priced in to call here if he's in the mood.
And he is indeed in the mood.
It's not only a small pot, Lon, it's a small and silent pot.
River card now. Queen of diamonds. Merson gets there with the flush. That gives Esposito top 2 pair.
That's a nasty card for Esposito.
$1,250,000 from Esposito.
That's actually another small value bet from Esposito with top 2.
It may get a little more expensive for him right here, though.
I call.
A raise to Merson, a quick call, and Merson shows the flush.
Well, Esposito smelled bluff, I guess, and he smelled wrong. He ends up taking a good-sized hit here.
An early punch to the gut to Michael Esposito, shrinking his chip stack to below 10 million, sending more than a third of his chips to Greg Merson, putting him in 2nd place. Merson looking to win this title and win the World Series Player of the Year title at the same time. Greg is in 4th place right now in that race. He is trailing pro John Minette, who picked up a bracelet this summer, as did Merson. Antonio Esfandiari is currently in 2nd place, having won a bracelet in Vegas and in Europe. And in 1st place right now is Phil Hellmuth, who also won a bracelet in Vegas and Europe. A win would give Merson an additional 400 points and the title Player of the Year.
That would make the Poker Brat runner-up for Player of the Year a 2nd straight time and could induce a global Hellmuth meltdown.
The biggest chip in play is the red oversized chip worth $500,000. The smallest right now, the green 25,000 chip. On the Jack Link's Beef Jerky whole cam, Steve G with pocket 8s.
In this crowd, G's like the old guy sitting on his front porch yelling at the kids to get off his lawn.
His first bracelet and only bracelet came in 2010. A raise to 900,000. Merson now with pocket nines. His bracelet came the day before he started his main event this year.
5 of these final tablists are 20-somethings. Merson 24, G 57.
A call from Merson with the nines. With 4 deuce is the chip leader. He brought a lot of Martha's Vineyard here. He folds. The Hungarian pro, Andras Korknai, with king-queen off.
And trying to become the first Hungarian to win the main event.
Andras folds to Esposito, still stinging from that loss to Merson. He folds to the button. Russell Thomas with 2 queens.
The actuary has got to like this actuarial table.
Just a call with the queens. Small blind Balsiger folds, as does the big blind, Jeremy Ausmus. So 3 players see a flop. You got 9s against 8s against queens. 7, 4, 5, all 3 with over pairs to the board. G with a gut shot. Russell Thomas feeling pretty good with those queens. Merson coming up way short with his 9s. G with a bet of 1.6 million. Now to Merson with a pocket 9s. And Merson lays it down.
Good laydown.
Thomas now with those queens.
During the main event, Thomas gave his girlfriend probabilities he'd survive. He told her there was a 50% chance he'd still be playing on day 2, 20% chance on day 3, 5% chance on day 4, 1% chance on day 5. He knows probability, but he beat the odds.
His coach, Jason Somerville, hoping he makes all the right decisions here. A call of 1.6 million from Thomas with the best hand. Jack of clubs, no help to G.
Steve G looks determined to press on.
He likes the pocket 8s, a bet of 3.25 million chips.
Thomas still with an overpair to that board, but G raised pre-flop and he's let out on the flop in the turn. So what can Russell beat right now? Not much.
Russell Thomas calls for a 3rd time here. And so they have built a pot of almost 13.5 million. River card now, tray of spades. Well, a busted draw and an inferior pocket pair.
I'm all in.
And G moves all in.
Wow. G turns his table image on its head. What a risky play.
And now Russell Thomas with a big decision.
G bet all in like he's got a set or river to straight. Thomas has to risk 80% of his stack to make this call with 1 pair.
I call.
Thomas does find it in himself to call. And Steve G will be the first casualty of this championship table.
Big call from Thomas, big collapse from G.
And a huge cheer goes up in the Penn and Teller Theater for Russell Thomas. Steve G is gone.
Steve G thought he'd be the last one standing, but he's the first one out.
A series of congratulatory handshakes for Steve G from his final table mates as he exits in 9th place. Russell Thomas nearly doubles his stack. He takes over 2nd place after a gut-wrenching call that goes right. High drama, and we're off and running.
The best poker content on the internet.
Your super high rollerball 7 champion.
Oh yeah!
Wheels are coming off. That's the craziest hand I've ever seen. What was that fight?
Go to get.pokergo.com/YT24 for $20 off a new annual subscription.
I play pretty crazy. I have a good time, and it is what it is. And when it comes off to certain people, it comes off a certain way, and some people like it, some people don't. It is what it is. Kind of portrays me as kind of crazy fun. I don't know. I just feel like a crazy person. I am a crazy person, so it's pretty funny how it comes off on TV.
Rob Salaburu, who was the talk of the main event on days 6 and 7.
Salaburu says he's not the poker ambassador type, he's more the poker agitator type.
Rob with a middle-of-the-pack stack with pocket jacks. He raised to 825 from early position, folded to Greg Merson in the big blind, 9-7 of clubs.
Like Salaburu, Merson generally acts quickly, but nobody plays as fast as Rob.
A call from Merson, Salaburu being a little quieter than we have seen him in the past here. The flop, 9-10-6, a pair of 9s with a gut shot from Merson. Salaburu still ahead with the jacks. Check from Merson, and Salaburu says, let's go. Another 9, and Merson grabs a big advantage with trips. Merson reaching. That's $1.3 million. And now it's on Salaburu.
Is that right? I call. No, it's not.
He says call, but puts out
5 yellows.
Some weird amount of chips.
Oh, hang on a second. How much did he put
Some
out there?
confusion on Salaburu's action, so tournament director Jack Effel has come over.
I did, but I think call. He did.
Okay, he released $2 million. All right. The original bet was 1.3. All right, so he'd have to put out 1.95. He put out at least 1.95, so we got to make him raise the minimum here. 2.6. We're going to leave the $2 million out, is what he left out. That's what he left out there. That's what we're going to leave out there.
So what is it? 600 more.
Oh, so we're going to leave the $2 million out there.
So Salaburu forced to make a minimum raise to $2.6 million.
Yeah, he has to make the raise full to double this bet here because it was at least half.
Well, this opens the door for Merson to re-raise if he wants. I don't think Greg is folding to the accidental min-raise.
Greg with trip nines.
Well, the sportsmanlike thing to do there is just call. That's what Greg does.
River card now, 7 of diamonds, and Greg's night gets better with a rivered full house. 4 diamonds on board. Merson now with chips in hand, betting his full house. Bet of $3.5 million, a snap fold from Rob.
Well, that was odd. Merson blows a kiss while betting, and Salaburu insta-folds.
Greg still in third place, but moving closer to second place, Russell Thomas, as Salaburu's stack gets a little lighter.
I wanted to raise. I had 2 jacks.
I understand.
I don't think Rob wanted to raise.
Chant goes up for Greggy as he picks up almost 4 million chips.
You say you didn't want to raise?
I wanted to raise.
Poker pro Phil Ivey in the crowd in Merson's corner here tonight.
You know, I discovered Merson first. Ivy has jumped on the bandwagon.
Under the gun is Jeremy Ausmus, Queen Jack offsuit.
Ausmus, the local pro, and what an eventful and blessed time he's had before this final table. His wife Adria gave birth to their second child.
Little Kai was born September 25th. A raise from Jeremy to $800,000. Sylvia with ace queen offsuit.
The other Las Vegas pro here by way of Martha's Vineyard. Jeremy and Jesse have played a bunch in cash games against each other here in town.
Sylvia is going to get involved with a call.
2.8.
Salaburu with queens and a quick raise to $2.8 million.
No doubt about a Salaburu raise this time. Every time Rob bets, I half expect him to bang one of those clocks they have in speed chess.
Not a bad idea to bring it to poker. Esposito folds his button over to the big blind Balsiger. He looks down at kings.
21-year-old wearing the same shirt he wore throughout the main event. He can get away with that because he's a college kid. I somehow get away with it too.
A lot of the crowd here wearing that same shirt.
All in.
Jake says all in for $10.3 million. Ausmus folds, as does Sylvia.
Balsiger, 4 bets all in. It'll be tough for Salaburu to fold queens, but he knows Balsiger has a pretty tight range here.
It'll be $7.5 million more from Salaburu to make the call. A critical moment for both.
Call.
Salaburu does call. Balsiger at risk, but in great shape.
Kings over queens.
I guess Salaburu was hoping to see ace-king there. He knew aces or kings were very possible for Balsiger.
Kings. Kings, queens.
Balsiger at risk. Salaburu risking half his stack.
Good feeling about this one.
Of course, Rob doesn't know the other 2 queens were folded, so his best hope is to find another way to win. And after that flop, all of Rob's outs are gone, an unusual situation where nobody knows that. Of course, the outs and percentages you see are coming from the player's perspective. Jake Balsiger working his way towards a double up. And with that river card, it is official. Balsiger with almost $23 million, while Rob's stack cut in half.
Balsiger pumped, Salaburu pummeled.
Yeah, baby. We are loving coolers right now. Loving coolers.
Balsiger's hopes of making history still alive. Rob Salaburu was anxious to get this final table underway, but he's quickly bleeding chips. Jake Balsiger riding the high of a big double up. Welcome back to the 2012 World Series of Poker Main Event Final Table, presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Just before the break, Rob Salaburu took a big hit to his stack, leaving him in 7th place. He now sits with about 20 big blinds. Action on the chip leader, Jesse Sylvia, in the small blind. Queen 5 of clubs.
Not a big hand, but Sylvia sitting on that chip lead. This is blind versus blind. Maybe Jesse thinking of putting pressure on Rob, one of the short stacks.
Rob still to act in the big blind.
All in.
All in
and he really wants the big blind and Andy's.
I call.
With pocket 7, Salaburu calls for his tournament life.
Well, Rob needs a double up to get back his mojo. He's been quiet.
And Rob in pretty good shape with the 7s against the chip leader.
Yeah. I think it's all right. Like, we got 5 with what's his name. I guess I could just raise, but like I figured you jam a lot more hands or whatever.
Jesse talking with his coach, Vanessa Selps. Salaburu watching his fate unfold. 4 ace. Rob still good with 2 pair now.
Salaburu looking to hold on. Sylvia with the Selpsian move, but it was for 17% of his stack. He stands to lose the chip lead if he doubles up Salaburu.
The deuce gives Sylvia a wheel draw now.
Sylvia has shown some great come-from-behind abilities in this main event. Salaburu needs to dodge a queen or a 3 to stick around.
The river card is a queen! Oh! Sylvia catches the river Salaburu out.
First he ran into kings, now he runs into tough luck. A short, quiet stay at this final table for Rob Salaburu.
Boy, Sylvia's steal went wrong, then went right on the river, costing Rob Salaburu his seat.
And the visibly shaken Texan walks down that boulevard of broken dreams.
We have just lost Rob, unfortunately. You lost a really big hand against Jake earlier. Does that play on your mind at all?
No. I mean, at the time, it was really close, but at the time I just kind of went with it. But there's a pretty tight range he has there, so I might go back and fold it, but, you know, what happens, happens, you know?
Were you able to play your own game coming in here? You have a really particular style. You know, it's a slower table than normal.
Yeah, I was real comfortable, for sure.
Well, you looked comfortable out there, and you're always entertaining.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What are we going to see from Rob Salaburu going forward?
I mean, try to go deep again, I guess, see what happens, you know?
Okay, well, thank you so much. It was great to speak to you. And we do lose you in 8th place. Sending it back to you, Lon, in the booth. Thank you.
Rob certainly left his own unique mark on this main event. Sylvia increasing his lead after that fortunate river card. His aggression from the small blind ends up working out. A move perhaps he can attribute to his final table coach, Vanessa Selps.
I think Jesse's biggest strength is that he's a very good deep stack cash game player, and he's also very aggressive. He likes to make a lot of moves, things like that. And at a final table where there's going to be a lot of pressure on people for their tournament life, having him make really good aggressive decisions on turns and rivers especially is going to be a really big asset to him.
Vanessa says she doesn't try to change a player's style. She takes that style and tweaks it. Jesse plays aggressively like Vanessa, and it's hard to believe he could have found a much better coach than her.
So action has been folded to her pupil, Jesse Sylvia, the chip leader on the button. 8-7 of spades.
It's a good thing the World Series gives out bracelets, not necklaces. I believe all of Jesse's neck real estate is taken up.
Jesse told us before this championship table his big chip stack would allow him to push the edges and recover if he was wrong. Hence the move against Salaburu, a raise to $900,000 from Jesse. Korknai with ace-7 re-raises to $2.3 million. No small blind, as Salaburu would have occupied that slot.
Well, Jesse made queen-5 work against Salaburu a moment ago. The chip leader emboldened will give it a go with 8-7.
He will not back down now.
And so this is going to be an old-school, hungry Martha's Vineyard battle.
There's the flop. Ace, 4-6, top pair for Korknai. A gut shot for Jesse Sylvia.
Korknai with an engineering degree from the University of Debrecen. 32,000 students there. I think the Big Ten just added them last year.
A bet of $2.5 million from Korknai. Sylvia now needs a 5 to make his straight.
Yeah, Jesse just with 8 high and a gut shot. What does Jesse's inner Selps say here?
Call is what it says. They've built a pot of almost 10 million chips. Turn card, another 4. Korknai with aces up now, still good. He checks this time.
Is Jesse going to try to steal it here?
A paired board with the ace out there. Jesse will see a free river card. 9 of diamonds.
Diamonds got there. I knew I should have played the hand.
You can see how much Andras likes that 3rd diamond on the river. He checks again. And now Jesse Sylvia, the chip leader, with a busted draw.
But he's going to put pressure on the shorter stack.
This is where that big stack comes into play for Sylvia. $5.2 million.
About half the pot. Sylvia makes a move. And as our colleague Antonio Esfandiari would ask, does his story make sense? Will Korknai give him credit for a hand here?
Korknai calls with the 2 pair, and that will be a winner.
Nice call.
A nice pot for Korknai to pump up his stack.
Andras lets his homies know they can cheer. He did real good there.
Score 1 for Hungary here at the Penn and Teller Theater. Korknai a thorn in Sylvia's side there. You're watching the World Series of Poker Main Event Final Table, presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Russell Thomas made a great call. Andras Korknai induced a bluff. Jake Balsiger doubled up with kings. To win the bracelet, you have to play well and run well. Action underway. Michael Esposito re-raised all-in with ace-jack. Was called by the ace-king of Greg Merson.
Esposito without a whole lot to work with tonight. He moves in with the big ace. Unfortunately, Merson has a bigger ace. Espo is down to just a little more than 20 big blinds. Esposito looking to survive. Merson looking to take the chip lead.
The flop 4-9-7, 2 spades. Esposito can now root for runner along with the jack.
Esposito competed and finished the New York City Triathlon the day before the main event marathon began, and looking for a great finish here.
There is another spade on the turn. Esposito motionless. Merson composed as usual.
Esposito's got to have a jack or any spade.
The river card, the 8 of clubs. Not the card Esposito wanted to see, as this commodities trader triathlete ends his main event run in 7th place.
The recreational player, and a darn good one, walks away a main event millionaire.
He wins almost $1.3 million, and look who is the chip leader. Greg Merson with $48 million, jumping past Thomas and Sylvia.
Well, Mike Esposito will be going back to work after this. The 7:04 a.m. commuter train to his commodities firm.
A job well done here in Las Vegas. Michael Esposito makes his poker skills pay off in a big way. So as Esposito found out, Greg Merson certainly is one of the more feared players at the table, and his opponents will tell you why.
Greg's a very tough player. He has a ton of experience online and live. He's capable of doing a lot of different stuff at the poker table, so I need to be prepared for everything.
Greg's a nice kid. I like Greg. We've actually battled a good amount online before Black Friday. We have a high mutual respect for each other's games.
Greg the player is very solid. He's a very tough opponent. He's probably my favorite person that I could possibly have on my right going into the final table.
Jesse likes his spot at the table because he gets to act after Greg acts in most hands. I like my spot at the table when I have a spot at the table.
That is the best seat at the table, indeed. Well, Esposito was our first millionaire to leave this championship table. Top prize over $8.5 million. Merson on the button with King 7 and a raise to an even million.
Merson trying to become the first bracelet winner since Chris Ferguson in 2000 to win the main event.
Sylvia in the small blind with Queen Jack.
Jesse says if he wasn't playing poker, he might be an actuary like his former roommate Russell Thomas. Frankly, I think he's bluffing on that one.
Sylvia knows his buddy Merson is capable of anything. He says 2 can play that game. There's a re-raise to $2.6 million. In the big blind now, Korknai with ace-4 of hearts.
Andras with the best hand.
Andras says, yeah, 3 can play at that game as he 4-bets it to almost $5 million. Merson out of the hand.
Does this look like an actuary to you? No. It looks more like Jesse James channeling Vanessa Selps.
Well, Jesse has been a little more stubborn lately, and he's got some of the big red chips worth $500,000 mixed with some of the others. A 5-bet to $10.7 million, and Korknai gives it up quickly. What a move by Sylvia.
That's an aggressive would-be actuary.
Sylvia reclaiming the chip lead as his crowd gets fired up. Andras Korknai trying to find consistency here at this table, but he keeps banging into roadblocks on his path to a title. Back in Las Vegas, 6-handed for the 2012 World Series of Poker Main Event Final Table Championship. So much on the line here tonight. $8.5 million to the winner, almost $8 million more than 9th place. Greg Merson can become the World Series of Poker Player of the Year only with a victory. 21-year-old Jake Balsiger can become the youngest ever to win the main event.
Merson, Balsiger, and Korknai all with one remarkable thing in common, each lucky to be alive literally. Merson battling drug addiction. Balsiger was hit by a truck while riding his bicycle last year and suffered a cracked skull. And Korknai was laid up for several months after a moped accident in Greece 6 years ago.
Folded over to Greg Merson on the button. Ace, king of spades. He puts out a raise, $1 million. The blind's still $250,000, $500,000. Jesse Sylvia in the small blind with Jack 9.
And it appears that Jesse's inner Vanessa Selps again is manifesting itself.
And that's more than $1 million in his hand. With Jack 9, a re-raise to $2.6 million in the big blind. Korknai now. Andras with a lot of action coming his way. Looks down at King Queen off.
At the time of his moped accident, Andras was in Greece because he had just had a relationship gone bad. Who among us hasn't ended up in Greece after breaking up with a girlfriend?
Well, Korknai says make it $5.3 million. Back to Merson now with his ace-king on the button.
We are six-handed now, and Merson won his bracelet in the six-handed event. Six-handed is his bread and butter.
And he pushes the action to $9.2 million.
Jesse's inner, I'm a mama's boy and I want to go home should manifest itself here.
He does fold now to Korknai, who takes a peek up at the in-house big screen with player chip counts. He's barely covered by Merson.
Well, Andras has been pretty snug. He's made a move, but Merson woke up with a big hand.
All in. All in from Korknai.
Call.
Merson calls for almost all of his chips, and he's got Korknai in trouble.
I was just telling Jesse how he was just going to speed it off.
Ausmus and Sylvia both mouthed wow when they saw the hands. They realized the best player at the table is about to be gifted an 84 million chip pot. It's insane, Lon. 80 big blinds to start the hand, and all of Andras Korknai's chips are in the middle with King Queen off.
Korknai, the 3-1 dog with just one live card. Here's the flop, deuce, trey, 8, about as blank as it gets for Andras.
Korknai in the midst of a massive blowup. Merson poised to take command of this championship.
A turning point at this championship table. Now the turn card. 7 of spades, and that steals one of Andras's outs as Merson adds a flush draw.
Korknai has to have a non-spade queen.
The river card is another 7. That brings it into quite an eventful main event for Hungarian Andras Korknai.
What a misstep from Korknai. And in very matter-of-fact fashion, Greg Merson is now in a dominant position.
Korknai, 6th place, wins over $1.6 million. Look at that chip count for Greg Merson, almost $86 million. Korknai made quite a splash at this year's main event. And Greg Merson's rail has plenty of reasons to cheer. He owns over 40% of the chips in play. For Korknai, a pre-flop move that might haunt him forever.
It would be a lot of fun to see my face on the huge banner. That's something that I think about a lot, walking in every year for the main event and just seeing yourself, holding bricks of cash would be pretty nice.
There's a look at P.S. Hines, last year's champ, and next to him, the empty spot that Jake Balsiger hopes to fill. Will there be plaid on the next banner? Just 5 players remaining, including this 21-year-old. Blinds at 300, 600,000. Andy, 75,000. On the button, Sylvia with ace-8 of hearts and a raise to 1.4 million. Russell Thomas with 9-6 folds over to Balsiger. Balsiger with a Jack Link's beef jerky wild card hand, championship edition.
When Joe Cata won the main event in 2009, he was 8 days short of his 22nd birthday. Balsiger about 2.5 months younger than Cata was.
Balsiger wants to play with Sylvia. Calls for 800,000 more. There are your choices, sir.
Well, I don't think he'd slow play pocket aces from the big blind, so I'm going to go with A, B, or C.
The flop, ace, jack, 9. Well, Jake caught a piece of that, but which piece? He checks. Sylvia with top pair.
The self-proclaimed mama's boy says he wants to buy his mom a house with his main event winnings.
You might need to win to buy a house in Martha's Vineyard, though. 1.6 million is a bet from Sylvia.
Well, with every pay jump, that's probably 3 more bedrooms. For Jake, I'm ruling out pocket aces. With A, B, or C, he got a piece of that flop, so I am now going to narrow it down to A, B, or C.
A call from Jake Balsiger with A, B, or C, you say. Turn card, queen of clubs, 3rd club on board.
It's a scary board for both of them.
Another check from Jake.
Well, with Jake checking, it's pretty much as I have diagnosed it, A, B, or C.
Your role here is to narrow it down.
This is not an exact science, it's a process.
River card, king of spades, as the board gets even scarier.
Sylvia winds up with a pair of aces, huh?
You were right.
And now this guy's betting?
$2.5 million.
Well, he feels safe. Jesse doesn't have a flush, but he can only be betting here with a 10 in his hand for Broadway. It's elementary. It's got to be C.
Sylvia lays it down. Balsiger manages to get the pot pushed to him, holding 9-8 for bottom pair to win the Jack Link's Beef Jerky wild card hand.
Well, what, I'm supposed to figure out some 15-year-old wearing a blue plaid shirt for the 104th straight day? Please.
Jake's bluff comes through, solidifying his third place spot on the leaderboard. So Jake, a unique character here. Just 21 years old, still a student at ASU. No high-stakes experience at all prior to the main event. Not to mention he lost his sense of taste and smell in a bicycle accident earlier this year.
Jesse Sylvia's got Vanessa Selps. Russell Thomas has Jason Somerville. And Jake Balsiger is being coached by Mike Timex McDonald, who was the final table coach last year for champion P.S. Hine.
Next player out, over $2.1 million on the button, Jeremy Ausmus with 10-7.
When we were near the money bubble on day 4, Jeremy's wife Adria called him. He had locked her out of the house. It was a hot day. She was pregnant, and he had to go home to let her in.
Good thing he did. A raise to $1.2 million from Ausmus in the big blind now. Sylvia with ace-9.
Jesse, of course, here with his girlfriend Ashley. But I would advise him to remain single because you don't want to be in a position where your wife calls you when you're on the money bubble, the main event.
Sylvia calls for $600,000 more with the ace. Heads up to the flop. Trey 8-9. Top pair, top kicker for Sylvia. Ausmus with an open ender.
Could be an action flop like in the movies.
Sylvia checks. And a check from Ausmus.
Well, this is a silent movie with no action.
Turn card, another Trey. Sylvia still best now with 2 pair. Checks again.
Looks like Jeremy hoping to take it down right here.
He will take a shot at it. $1.5 million. There is his wife, Adria, watching her husband get in a little deeper with his short stack.
Well, as Vanessa Selp said, Jesse would be active and pressure his opponents. Looks like it's going to be a check raise.
Watching carefully as Sylvia does pounce with the raise to $3.6 million.
Come on.
Ausmus raises all in.
I call.
And Sylvia makes the call, and Jeremy says, uh-oh.
Yeah, Jeremy Ausmus hoped to push Jesse Sylvia off his hand.
10 ball?
Instead, Jeremy now needs to get lucky.
With one card to come, Sylvia with a chance to knock out the very skilled Jeremy Ausmus. Adria looking very concerned.
11 outs. It's pretty good.
The river card is a 5 of spades, a blank for Ausmus. His draw comes up short. Sylvia wins the pot. And Jeremy Ausmus knocked out of the main event in 5th place.
Nice job by Ausmus moving up from the short stack to 5th.
He played really well. Good luck. You played amazing. You played amazing. Good luck, buddy.
Jesse now with $63.5 million chips still finds himself $23 million behind Greg Merson as those two pull away from the rest. Kara Scott is with our 5th place finisher.
Jeremy, you came in as a short stack. Talk to me about your thinking here in this last hand.
I was pretty happy with how things were going, and I hadn't really gotten too crazy or anything, and I think everyone kind of realized it. I thought that was a decent spot where Jesse might just have draws a lot, and he would fold all of them. I could have a 3, I could have checked back a big hand, but that ace-9 was the one hand I was worried about, or like ace-3 maybe, that's about it. But
you've been a poker pro for a very long time, made a very good living at it. This is a $2 million win, over $2 million. What does this do for your life?
A lot. I mean, this is by far the biggest score I've ever had, so it's huge. It's great. It felt good to, the goal is to win, but to move up another 1.3 million, 1.4 million is huge. It's great.
A class act all the way. Ausmus out in fifth.
Come on. I call.
4 remain with Merson and Sylvia way out in front.
Good luck to you.
The best poker content on the internet.
Your super high roller bowl 7 champion. Oh yeah!
Wheels are coming off.
That's the craziest hand I've ever seen. What was that fight?
Go to get.pokergo.com/YT24 for $20 off a new annual subscription.
Down to 4 players here at the Penn & Teller Theater. Merson, Sylvia, and Thomas started in the top 4. Balsiger started in 8th. He's into 3rd place now. Thomas with ace-9 in the small blind and a raise to $1.5 million. Balsiger in the big blind on the Jack Link Speed Jerky hole. Cam ace-king.
Blind versus blind, both of the big hand. Ever since he made that great call to knock out Steve G, Thomas has slowly been whittled down.
All in.
Balsiger puts Thomas all in.
Thomas with about 25 big blinds left. You got to know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You know, Kenny Rogers might have been an actuary.
So Balsiger making Thomas squirm.
I call.
Thomas calls all in, and he's in trouble.
Ace-king versus ace-9.
And for Russell Thomas, it's ace-9 versus ace-king, and you can feel the weight of that reality on his shoulders.
And Balsiger's plaid-clad cheering section on their feet. Here's the flop. Thomas at risk. 8, queen, 5. No immediate help for Russell Thomas.
Jake Balsiger closing in on a knockout and a shot at 3-handed play to become youngest main event champ ever.
Thomas said he worked harder than anyone else before this championship table. Thomas's coach Jason Somerville, no doubt feeling a bit helpless about now. 5 of diamonds pairs the board.
So now with a river queen or an 8, they would chop the pot. Thomas needs a 9 to win the whole pot. Otherwise, the 2012 main event will be over for the 24-year-old actuary.
Thomas's Twitter name is Run Good Russell, and boy, does he need it now. The river card, 7 of hearts, ends the main event for Russell Thomas in 4th place.
And the former roommates embrace, Thomas disconsolate.
An amazing performance by Russell Thomas, winning almost $2.9 million. And now we're down to just 3.
At the moment, it's Jake Balsiger's blue plaid world.
Russell Thomas walks away from the championship table. Jake Balsiger has done his mom proud, moving up from 8th place into the final 3, but it's Greg Merson who's in control with over 88 million chips. Jesse Sylvia in 2nd, with most of Martha's Vineyard here to support him. Everyone is welcome in Las Vegas, but just 3 players have invitations to become the 2012 World Series of Poker main event champion. Chip leader Greg Merson is hungry for a main event player of the year combo. Jesse Sylvia, the kid from Martha's Vineyard, remains a force. And 21-year-old Jake Balsiger could rewrite history, becoming the youngest ever to win the main event. Welcome to Las Vegas.
This is going to be one of those moments I'll never forget.
Welcome to the main event final table.
I think that I'm the best player at the table.
Welcome to the night that will change someone's life forever.
Just seeing yourself, holding bricks of cash would be pretty nice.
Right here, right now. Welcome to Las Vegas and indeed the Rio All-Suite Hotel and Casino for the World Series of Poker main event final table presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Just 3 players now fighting for first place prize money of over $8.5 million, a permanent spot in poker history, and the coveted championship bracelet. I'm Lon McCarran with Norman Chad and Kara Scott. What a scene here at the Penn & Teller Theater. Jake Balsiger is the youngest player and shortest stack, but he's got life.
He's got life, he's got a big smile, he's got a blue plaid shirt, he's almost got it all.
Jesse Sylvia started as chip leader, now sits in second.
He might be the Chris Moneymaker of Martha's Vineyard. That island's going to become a Hold'em paradise.
Greg Merson, recent bracelet winner, is the current chip leader.
I first noticed him in a Maryland mall when he was 4 years old. I knew he'd be a winner.
In Merson's corner, one of the best in the world, Phil Ivey. You don't see him often on the sidelines.
Phil Ivey sees a lot of himself in Greg Merson, but hey, I saw it first, Lon.
From a field of almost 6,600, we are down to our final three. A compelling mix of playing styles about to clash. And Norman, if you had to pick three stories to still be here, it would be these three, right?
These are three likable, talented 20-somethings. Jesse Sylvia just living the dream by way of Martha's Vineyard. Greg Merson from the great state of Maryland battling back from drug addiction. And Arizona State student Jake Balsiger, just old enough to play here and just young enough to perhaps become the next kid with a dream record-breaking main event champion.
All right, let's take a look at how these players set up.
Three players remain after six have been eliminated. Merson, with more than half the chips in play, has a good shot at Player of the Year.
The chip leader is usually the favorite, and with his talent and his stack, Merson is the favorite here.
Sylvia about $50 million behind Merson after leading the table nine-handed.
Anytime someone hires Vanessa Selps as a coach, you can't count them out.
And Jake Balsiger is the short stack, but plenty of play left. He's got more than 70 big blinds.
And despite his youth, Balsiger does not seem stage-struck here under the bright lights.
The next to go out will collect nearly $3.8 million. The blind's at $300,000, $600,000, a $75,000 chip ante. Big chip in play is that red oversized $500,000 chip. The smallest chip, the green, worth $25,000. On the button, Jesse Sylvia looks down at Pocket Kings.
Jesse says he can live with no money and be very happy. Well, now he's going to have to live with a lot of money and be very happy.
Sylvia and Merson have scored 2 knockouts, 1 for Balsiger. A raise to $1.2 million for Sylvia on the Jackling's Beef Jerky Whole Cam. Balsiger with Ace-Jack off suit.
Balsiger now unofficially Arizona State's first student millionaire on campus this academic year.
And with the Ace-Jack, Balsiger with a re-raise to $3.5 million. The big blind Greg Merson folds. So Sylvia now. His coach, Vanessa Selps, on the sidelines. And with the Kings, he makes the call.
Sylvia originally min-raised, and he'll now sit on those Kings, just calling Balsiger's 3-bet.
All right, here's the flop. 6, 7, 9. No ace for Jake, so Sylvia's Kings hold up so far. Balsiger, first act here after the flop, and he will bet $3.9 million.
Both of these players very methodical, like they have the rest of their lives in front of them.
Jesse with those Kings not going anywhere, just a call.
Jesse still slow playing his Kings, and he may know that Jake often continues with his bluffs on the turn.
Another 6 on the turn, another miss for Jake. Looks like another bet from Jake is forthcoming. The 21-year-old playing well beyond his years with a bet of $7.2 million.
Balsiger calmly fires another round of Squadouche Hooey.
I'm all in.
Jesse races Balsiger all in.
Yeah, this would be for the rest of Jake's chips, but there won't be any more of Jake's chips going into this pot.
Jake Balsiger does give it up. Jesse's girlfriend, Ashley, and the rest of the Martha's Vineyard Society to support Jesse Sylvia on their feet. Jake Balsiger takes a pretty good hit to his stack.
Jesse said if he made this final table, he'd bring all of Martha's Vineyard with him. It sounds like he did.
Obviously, a lot at stake tonight for the champion. $8.5 million and the most coveted piece of poker jewelry. Merson with the added bonus of Player of the Year main event champ combo. Jesse Sylvia could become a legend on his home island, and 21-year-old Jake Balsiger trying to overtake Joe Cata as the youngest ever to win the main event.
Can't wait to go on vacation.
Gonna take some time off of poker after this.
Yeah.
So his idea of time off is playing poker in another country.
Nah, no. I want to go lay on the beach.
Sylvia has the action. Almost 65.5 million chips and pocket nines right now.
Jesse and his girlfriend Ashley are moving to LA soon. I imagine they'll run in different circles than I do.
Sylvia with the pocket pair and a raise to $1.2 million. Balsiger with a bigger pocket pair, the jacks.
The shoe's on the other foot this hand. Last time the shoe was on the left foot. This time it's on the right foot, which is Balsiger's.
The small blind. Balsiger repops it now. $3.5 million. Merson folds 8-7 back to Sylvia.
Last time Jake 3-bet with ace-jack and was behind. This time he 3-bets with 2 jacks and he's ahead of Jesse.
The fresh-faced Balsiger way behind in chip count to Sylvia. And this a re-raise from Sylvia to $7.2 million.
Last time Sylvia just smooth called with pocket kings and he was ahead. This time he 4-bets with pocket nines and he's behind. Poker's a tricky game, Lon.
All in.
You heard him.
Jake raises all in.
Back to Jesse.
I call.
He makes the call and he'll be looking for help to get heads up.
Jack's nice.
Now Jesse was hoping he was in a race. Instead, he's a 4-1 underdog.
Sylvia about to double up Jake Balsiger if he doesn't get lucky. 5 deuce deuce, a good flop for Jake.
Balsiger in great shape here to keep his bid alive to be youngest ever to win the main event.
Neither one of these players look like they can breathe very well right now. The Chan Balsiger needs to fade one more street to double up.
Jake acts like he's on a carnival ride and he loves the bumps and the turns.
Jake's mom, Debbie, could see her son take over second place.
Balsiger needs to dodge a 9 to stick around.
It's a 6 and Balsiger makes the pocket jacks work. He's healthy again with 57.5 million chips. Sylvia now with the fewest, just over 37 million.
No, they're not sending the kid home to bed yet.
So Jesse Sylvia giving up his spot on the leaderboard to the 21-year-old. So the big money in the main event bracelet is still very much up for grabs.
The best poker content on the internet.
Your super high rollerball 7 champion.
Oh, yeah.
Wheels are coming off.
That's the craziest hand I've ever seen. What was that fight?
Go to get.pokerco.com/YT24 for $20 off a new annual subscription.
The view of the Las Vegas Strip at night never gets old, mainly because a new building seems to go up every few days. Inside the Penn & Teller Theater, it's Maryland's Greg Merson with about half the chips in play with Jake Balsiger and Jesse Sylvia in second and third place. Greg Merson on the button with pocket 7s. And a raise to $1.6 million to Sylvia in the small blind. On the Jack Links beef jerky hole cam, looks down at King Jack.
Jesse's been a waiter and he's been a lifeguard. And you know, he looks as if he's been a waiter and a lifeguard.
He calls for $1.2 million more over to Balsiger in the big blind, queen tray.
Balsiger's too young to have been anything.
And he'll fold, so heads up Merson, who would have been hired by Jesse Sylvia had he not made this final table, will go up against Sylvia here. The flop is for King Jack. Sylvia hits top 2 pair. And looks like he's going to lead into the pre-flop raiser. $2.2 million.
2.2.
Merson says matter-of-factly, this is my year, and he is so close now to making it a year for the ages.
8-time bracelet winner Phil Ivey, big fan of Merson's. Merson hoping that Jesse missed the flop. The answer, no. That's a raise to $7 million from Greg.
All 3 of these guys are moneymaker poker boomers. Each got into the game largely after watching Chris Moneymaker win the 2003 main event.
Jesse with a big stack of the red chips worth $500,000 each with a re-raise to 15.3. Merson folds quickly.
That was relatively easy money for Jesse James Sylvia.
Merson put pressure on Sylvia, but ran into a big hand. Merson still in first place with over $83 million. Jesse mixing it up, playing that pot aggressively, perhaps the result of keeping his poker game sharp during the break.
My preparation for the final table has included a lot of different things. You know, I hired a coach. I talked to a lot of players. I studied videos. I studied my opponents, and I did everything I could. I was probably putting in like 6 to 8 hours a day of just either practicing poker or studying exactly what I need to be doing at the final table.
There's his coach, Vanessa Selps, but she says Jesse has done 95% of the work himself.
That's gotten him 3-handed for the World Championship action on Merson on the button. Queen Jack of Hearts. And he limps in for $800,000. The small blind, Sylvia, 10 of spades, 9 of clubs.
And Jesse, wow, what is this, a holiday truce of the raising wars? Just a call. Queen 10 for Balsiger in the big blind.
Well, we saw Greg Merson limping on the button. That used to be a sign of inexperience or weakness. Now it's a sign of creativity or mixing it up.
The big blind Balsiger says enough of this. 3.7 million is his raise.
Well, Balsiger with a little squeeze play here, sensing weakness.
Back to Merson now.
Looks like Greg has other ideas.
There's a call for 2.9 million more before Sylvia gets out of the way.
Balsiger's raise there would take down the pot pre-flop a lot of the time, not this time.
It's Greg Merson. It's a 10 million chip lead on Balsiger. Both with 2 overcards to the board. Merson's kicker has him ahead. Jake first to act. Both have gut shots to a queen high straight.
At Arizona State, Balsiger is majoring in political science with a minor in continuation betting science.
And he has learned a continuation bet of 4.5 million. Often will take the pot down. But not against Greg Merson, apparently.
Once again, I would have thought that bet would end this thing most of the time. Not this time.
There's a call from Greg. So, 17.5 million chips up for grabs. And we're just going to the turn card. 4 of hearts now. No help to Balsiger. Merson does pick up a flush draw.
Both these guys still without a hand.
Balsiger with guts. 7.5 million.
You're right, Lon. Balsiger's 21, and most of the time when he acts, the chip leader and the best player at the table is acting right behind him. This kid shows a lot of poker heart.
Balsiger started the hand with 70 million. Merson with 80 million.
Well, Merson's not giving up on the pot. Of course, he doesn't know it, but he's a 93% favorite right now.
There's the call. 32.5 million chips in the middle.
Jake has to squirm a little bit now. He's got nothing.
River card, 6 of spades, no flush or straight for Merson, but his jack kicker makes him best. But can he believe that?
No. Jake right now is thinking in for a dime, in for 30 or 40 times. He knows he can't win unless he bets at it again.
Wow, he's going to test Greg further. 13 million straight.
I got to believe firing this third barrel is going to work.
Jesse Sylvia, a very interested observer, as is Phil Ivey.
Merson doesn't usually Hollywood it. I would have thought he would have folded here immediately.
On.
What was that?
On.
Oh, my. Jake gave it the college try, but folds.
And Merson shows what he thinks is a bluff. Merson channels his inner Ivy with that one.
2 busted draws, a powerhouse move by Greg Merson gets the shorter stack to fold.
I would have always thought a main event title, a huge cash game pot, or maybe a woman would bring out the softer, gentler side of Phil Ivey. Turns out it's Greg Merson.
It is Mardi Gras time in Greg Merson's cheering section.
My hands are like shaky out here.
You dirty dog.
You gotta go for it sometimes.
Back in Las Vegas, hard to imagine a World Series bracelet with more diamonds on it. Retail value $150 grand. For chip leader Greg Merson, having Phil Ivey, an 8-time bracelet winner in his corner, has to be comforting.
Well, Greg's a very talented player. I was really impressed with his table demeanor when I played with him. A few times I played with him. He's very calm at the table. He's very likable, very easy to play with. He has all the tools to be a great player. He's already been very successful in poker tournaments with the few tournaments he's played. And I just like the guy.
Normally, I just like the guy, wouldn't be a ringing endorsement, but context is everything. This is Phil Ivey talking.
Ivey keeping an eye on Merson, sitting there with 2-time bracelet winner Jennifer Harmon. Merson with King 7 of diamonds on the button. A raise to $2 million. The blinds are up to $500,000, $1 million. Ace queen off for Sylvia in the small blind.
You know, Merson, like Ivey, shows very little emotion at the table. Hard to tell whether he's winning or losing.
Sylvia facing a min raise from Merson. Calls for 1.5 more to the big blind. Jake Balsiger with ace 10.
He's short stacked. Ace 10's pretty good three-handed. Merson could have raised with anything on the button, and Sylvia just called. So what do?
All in. You shove. 17, so Jake, with all his chips pushed into the middle.
And Merson actually could raise here to get rid of Sylvia and try to isolate Balsiger.
Merson with king 7 of diamonds. Does he want to go with that hand? No, he does not. So Sylvia now.
I call.
He makes the call and is a big favorite to make this a heads-up match by knocking Jake out.
The Jesse James camp close to getting the heads up. Jake Balsiger close to seeing his dream to be youngest ever champ end.
Vanessa Self shouting for ace-queen to hold. The plaid-clad crew with not much to cheer about.
You gotta love this kid. He just rolls with the punches.
Balsiger at risk. Jack 4-8. No immediate help for him there.
The clock about to strike midnight on Jake Balsiger's fairy tale. This will get Jesse in decent shape. Heads up against Greg Merson with just a 3-2 chip disadvantage.
All right, now the turn card is a 10! Balsiger gets new life!
We got a lot of outs.
Sylvia does have outs, picking up a two-way straight draw.
Yeah, Sylvia can still end Balsiger's main event with a king, 9, or queen.
So many ramifications here on this river card. It's a 7 of hearts. Balsiger does score the double up.
The clock doesn't strike midnight for the 21-year-old. And it's important to note, Balsiger didn't wait till his stack got too tiny to try to double up. He went for it early. So now Jake's a factor with about 40 big blinds.
Nothing Jesse James Sylvia could do to keep from getting robbed there. Jake's still the short stack, but not by much. As he doubles through Sylvia again. Merson misses out for the moment on a guaranteed pay bump with Balsiger surviving. Jesse just a few million ahead of the 21-year-old now.
Jesse takes it very well. This is a classy group of young guns.
What a three-handed battle we have here at the Penn & Teller Theater. Sylvia on the button on the Jack Link's Beef Jerky Hole Cam. Ace-King, another premium hand. Penn & Teller Theater still buzzing from that 10 on the turn. A raise to $2 million. Balsiger folds suited 6-4. Merson in the big blind with 2 red kings.
Boy, Jesse Sylvia just took the bad beat. Now he picks up ace-king on the very next hand and runs into pocket kings.
Well, Merson, no doubt, will be raising here. How much? He makes it $4.8 million.
This is not a collision course Jesse Sylvia can afford.
So now Jesse started the hand with $42 million. Merson with almost $117 million. That's a re-raise to $14.2 million.
And 1/3 of Jesse's remaining stack already in this pot.
Is now the bet, 14.2.
Greg said, let's play for your stack.
I call.
And a call from Sylvia with ace-king. He's going to need help to stick around.
Greg's king first, Jesse's ace-king.
Selps exasperated by the developments. Merson in his usual zen-like pose. And Sylvia with 2 back-to-back big hands about to get swept out of here.
A hand to go. Sylvia had $60 million and Balsiger on the ropes now. Sylvia could be out of this main event. All right, now the flop with Sylvia at risk. Tray 5 deuce, a wheel draw for Jesse.
We always have the best flops in tournaments.
Merson still in great position to get the heads up with a huge chip lead on Jake Balsiger.
Ashley wanting to comfort Jesse. Ivy hoping Greggy can hang on.
Kind of feeling an ace.
Turn card 8 of hearts. Merson still good in 1 card from heads up with a dominating chip lead.
I'm sure Jesse loves Ashley, but getting consoled while staring at a 7-outer is not what I'd want. Jesse Sylvia needs a 4 or an ace to survive.
And the river card. Oh, it's the 4! Sylvia does it the hard way, filling his straight.
We've seen this before at the main event. Sylvia surviving on a river card against a stoic Greg Merson.
And taking the chip lead once again. Merson was so close to the next step, but he's nothing if not resilient at the main event and at life. And if you didn't know it already, you know it now. In poker, nothing goes in the books until the river has its say.
What a scene before the break. Balsiger ready for heads up. Sylvia resigned to a third-place finish, only to find a 4 on the river, leaps into the chip lead as Merson takes it in stride.
I'm going to have to win the main event twice. It sucks.
What's that?
I'm going to have to win the main event twice.
All right, here we go again. Good luck.
The blinds are up to 800,000 for the small blind, 1.6 million for the big, 200,000 is the ante. Sylvia with King 9 offsuit.
We have seen Jesse with so many lives at this main event. I would gladly travel with him anywhere and figure nothing bad can happen to me.
The energy in this room remains at a fever pitch. The unpredictable nature of this three-handed battle growing with every hand. Just a call from Sylvia. Balsiger with pocket kings.
Last year, Balsiger thought his life was over when he was hit by a truck while riding his bike. Now this year, Jake Balsiger is sitting here at the main event staring at life-changing events.
Jake with a raise to 3.7 million gets rid of Merson. Now Sylvia calls for 2.1 million more. And Sylvia heads up and dominated once again, this time by Balsiger. The flop, 9 trade. Balsiger with kings up now. Jesse hit that flop with a lesser 2 pair. Balsiger putting chips together. The bet of 4.5 million to Jesse.
Dangerous flop for Sylvia. He's not worried about Balsiger having a 3 in his hand, so he likes pairing his 9.
Jesse with a raise to 11.2 million.
Of course, Jesse has seen Jake bluff in this spot a lot, but it's no bluff this time.
Now, Balsiger with the best of it.
All in.
All in.
Says all in.
I call.
Jesse calls again, and here we go again. Balsiger, a big favorite.
A quick call from Jesse, and he's disgusted. And don't look now, but Jake Balsiger, can it be, is about to become chip leader.
He still has to survive 2 more streets here to make it official.
Couldn't at least have queens? 9 ball.
Turn card, a jack. Jake now 1 card from taking the lead or being out.
Sylvia about to get short stacked. Only a 9 would knock out Jake Balsiger.
The river is an ace. Jake Balsiger doubles through Sylvia again.
It's Candyland in here. The kid's got the chip lead.
Oh, how far he has come. Jesse Sylvia now with just 37 million and change.
Jake basking in the glory. He got the ice cream float, and Jesse got the gumdrop.
You do know your Candyland.
Jesse nearly had Jake out of here with ace-queen versus ace-10. Now Jake is top dog.
Well, it didn't seem possible when that hand went down, but Balsiger can still become the youngest ever to win the main event. Phil Hellmuth was just shy of 25 years old when he won his world championship in '89. That record lasted 19 years before Peter Eastgate shattered it in '08. Just a year later, Joe Cattle won the main event before he turned 22. Now, Jake Balsiger with the chip lead can become the youngest ever to win the main event at 21 years, 9 months, and 8 days old.
What a trend. The last 4 main event winners, including Jonathan Duhamel and Pius Hines, all younger than Hellmuth was. This year we'll have our 5th straight 20-something champion.
Balsiger on the button with King 9. That came up short for Sylvia when he was the chip leader. Balsiger will now try it as the new chip leader. Balsiger limped in. Sylvia with 8 deuce in the big blind after Merson folded.
I think the Jake and Jesse show should go on the road. It might sell out arenas.
Sylvia checks his option, happy not to pay any more to see a flop. The flop is 8 deuce king. Bottom 2 pair for Sylvia, top pair for Balsiger. A check from Jesse.
Sylvia checks his big blind special, knowing Balsiger often will fire away, and this time, Jake's got a hand anyway, top pair.
Jake does bet 2.2 million.
What an opportunity for Jesse Sylvia to climb right back into the mix.
Now Jake sees that Jesse's not going anywhere. Sylvia with a check raise to 7.6 million.
Jake's got to like top pair here, and he might put Jesse on a flush draw.
All in. All in.
That puts Jesse all in.
Call.
And he makes the call with the best hand, but Sylvia uneasy with his tournament life at stake.
Sylvia, a 3-1 favorite, but he doesn't look too comfortable. As you mentioned, his main event on the line.
So these two young poker players clashing once again. Here's a turn card, another deuce, and Sylvia turns a boat. But not over yet.
Hold on. This is no time for them to be saying, I love you. This isn't the Titanic, it's the main event.
River card is a tray of hearts, and Sylvia does come back to double through Jake Balsiger.
Jake, the chip lead, hardly knew you.
Merson back as top dog. So Balsiger back as the short stack. There's more magic going on here than when Penn and Teller are working this stage. Merson, an innocent bystander, as Sylvia and Balsiger trade blows at this championship table. Welcome back to the World Series of Poker Main Event Final Table, presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Lon McCarron with Norman Chad and Kara Scott as we play 3 to a champion at some point. Pretty tightly bunched trio. Quite a ride to get here. Merson, the chip leader now, but just by a few million.
I just forgot where I was again. It's so cool.
At least it'll all be over at some point.
I don't know if I ever want this to end, man.
Merson raises the 3.2 million, and it's Sylvia with the Jack Link's Beef Jerky Wild Card and Championship Edition.
What people don't understand, Lon, three-handed, any two cards can be in play. We're not talking hand ranges here pre-flop. We're talking the entire deck.
Sylvia with a call for 2.4 million. There are your choices.
Okay, I'm going to be non-committal until I need to be committal.
Balsiger with King-8 of clubs calls for $1.6 million more.
Balsiger with King-8, Mercer with 9-7, Sylvia with Jack-10, 7-7, Queen-10, or 8-8. You call the flop.
8-10 ace. Sylvia first to act.
I am studying Jesse Sylvia like Joe Navarro studies a department store mannequin for tells.
Check.
He checked? That tells me nothing. I will not commit.
Balsiger with bottom pair. Check. He checks to Merson, who picked up an up and down straight draw. Check. He checks.
Okay, I'm now committing. I believe the most logical hand Jesse would have checked is with a set of 8s.
Queen of clubs gives Balsiger straight and flush draws.
Now Jesse's going to bet. See, he was hoping someone would stab at it on the flop.
5.2 million now over to Balsiger with his draws.
Yeah, that was a huge turn card for Jake. One card gave him 2 draws. That's like a 2-sided card. One side gave him a flush draw, the other side gave him a straight draw.
Jake calls, Greg gets out of the way.
I am studying Jesse like Joe Navarro studies an avocado at Safeway.
River card.
Heads up.
King of diamonds hits Balsiger, not with a straight or flush, but with kings up now.
Oh, set of 8s can't like that card.
Sylvia putting chips together again. This time it's 9.2 million. Now Balsiger with kings up.
Well, Jesse can only be betting with a jack in his hand. So I was wrong. He didn't slow play a set of 8s. He has Jack-10. Now Jake might think Jesse is bluffing. Jesse would never value better pair or a worse 2-pair than Jake. So in Jake's mind, Jesse might have squadouche.
I call.
Balsiger calls. Sylvia turns over Jack-10 for the straight to win the Jack Link's Beef Jerky wild card hand. I'm calling that a win for you, Norman.
And I finished the year in Jack Link's 14-12. Hoorah!
So Jake Balsiger once again in the danger zone with his stack as Jesse James Sylvia again in the lead at this championship table with over 90 million. Jesse, by no means an arrogant player. He was definitely confident back on day 6 with 97 players remaining. He filled out our ESPN questionnaire and wrote at the bottom, I am the next champion of the World Series of Poker.
When I filled out that questionnaire, I wrote, I will finish the year 14-12 on Jack Link's wildcard hands.
Congratulations on your season. Pocket 4s for Sylvia on the button.
Jesse wants to enroll in film school. He should make his first movie, The Jesse Sylvia Story, How I Survived 8,000 All-Ins to become main event champion.
Sylvia with a raise to 4 million. That's a minimum raise now with the blinds now at 1 million, 2 million. Balsiger with Queen-10 off.
All in.
He says all in for his 20,300,000. Merson with King-Queen.
Well, 10 big blinds left for Jake. Queen-10's pretty good. Merson thinking of coming in, not giving Sylvia too much credit for his button raise.
Merson getting an exact count from the dealer.
The call.
He makes the call. Now to Sylvia with a pocket pair.
Wish I had length or something.
He gives it up, and Balsiger will need to pull another rabbit out of his hat to stick around.
Yeah, Balsiger at risk. He would rather have faced the pocket fours. Merson has him dominated.
So Jake Balsiger on the hook again. His mother looking nervous, but he's been through this before. The flop is 6-6-6. King high still best for Merson.
I wish you could feel my heart. It's like not even beating.
Jake survived ace-10 versus ace-queen against Sylvia.
Turn card is paid, but only a jack. Balsiger still in trouble.
Well, with a river, jack, or queen, they would chop the pot. Balsiger needs a 10 to win it all. Otherwise, his attempt to become youngest main event champion will be over.
The river card is the 5 of hearts. Balsiger can't make it happen this time as Greg Merson takes the last of his chips.
Good game, Jesse. Good spots.
Yeah, it was amazing playing with you.
No record for Balsiger, but what a run he had. And now it's down to just 2 who will play for the game's biggest title.
He was a kid with a dream. What a showing.
Indeed, Norman, almost $3.8 million for the 21-year-old, a lifetime of earnings, and he hasn't graduated college. Sylvia and Merson left to compete for top spot. Let's go down to Kara Scott, who's with the third-place finisher.
When we spoke to you back in July, you said that, you put a lot of work into your game just this year. You didn't think that you were as good a player before. Tell me how you feel about your game now after this incredible showing.
I'm feeling great about my game right now. I talk to my friends, they're better players than me. They play high stakes, they said they were happy with pretty much everything, they're rooting me on. So looking forward to the next tournaments in the future.
What is the biggest thing that you're going to take from this main event experience?
It's a good question.
$3.8 million?
Yeah, that would be one of them. I do enjoy that. Can't complain about that.
And incredible supporters that came out to watch you. They've been here the whole time.
Yeah, the rail was great. They stayed late. They're super excited. They really kept me going, so that was awesome.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Yeah. And it is $3.8 million for third place for Jake Balsiger.
Jake's exit leaves Jesse Sylvia, and Greg Merson heads up for the bracelet, the cash, and the fame. This is the World Series of Poker Main Event Final Table presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky.
The best poker content on the internet.
Your super high roller bowl 7 champion.
Oh, yeah.
Wheels are coming off.
That's the craziest hand I've ever seen. What was that fight?
Go to get.pokergo.com/YT24 for $20 off a new annual subscription.
First, you dream of making the final table, then you dream about getting heads up. Now, Jesse Sylvia and Greg Merson can dream about winning the World Series of Poker Main Event bracelet. Here's how the two stack up. Merson with more experience and more to show on his poker resume. Most of his career World Series earnings come from his bracelet win earlier this year.
And it bears repeating what a remarkable journey Greg Merson has made to get here. He had a serious drug addiction when attending the University of Maryland and then rehab. Then last year while living in Toronto playing online poker, he had a relapse. He detoxed himself over New Year's weekend in a Las Vegas hotel room, and now Greg Merson has been sober and clean all of 2012.
Just to make this moment even more spellbinding, first place money has been delivered in between our final twosome. Sylvia calls for $1 million more with Queen 5 of clubs. Merson in the big blind with King 4.
And what a journey at this main event for him. Entering day 3, Merson was 1,728 out of 1,765 players. Then on day 5, he had under 3 big blinds left, and here he is.
Merson with a pair of kings, Sylvia a pair of 5s in that flop. The ace, no fun for either. They both check.
And that's a couple of times most players would have folded their 10th, 1,728 out of 1,765. Then 2 days later, 3 big blinds left. Wow.
Trip 5s for Sylvia on the turn.
Jesse's going to bet now. That's what my 35 years of poker experience would tell me.
Merson checks his kings up. Now Sylvia with the best of it. And Sylvia praying that Merson got a piece of that board. $4.5 million from Sylvia.
My 35 years cannot tell me what Greg Merson's going to do.
He calls.
And my 35 years tell me we will see a river card now.
Very nicely done. All right, the river card is a queen, and 5's full for Sylvia. Merson checks again.
I believe Merson could patent that wrist check.
I like it. Sylvia now with the full boat. A lot of those red chips, 12 million, 7, and Merson folds immediately.
Not too much damage to Greg Merson there.
Sylvia could not get any more from Merson on the river, but Jesse takes a small step forward, though Merson still holds 60% of the chips.
If Jesse wins this thing, he's going to travel the world with a big smile on his face. And if he doesn't win it, he's still going to travel the world with a big smile on his face.
So the long grind of the main event has come down to these two. Greg Merson cut down to just under 3 big blinds on day 5, as you mentioned, Norman. And Jesse Sylvia lucky to survive day 7 before charging into the chip lead by the end of that day. Merson, king 6.
In heads up, if you've got a king, chances are you are a favorite against any random hand.
Men raised to 4 million. Sylvia looks down at queen 8 offsuit.
In the 1970s, only one 20-something won the main event, Bobby Baldwin. In the 1990s, only one 20-something won the main event, Huck Seed. And now we're about to crown our 5th straight 20-something champion. You know what? I can't believe I might not live long enough to see a 30-year-old win this thing again.
Sylvia putting together a re-raise, making it 9.1 million.
Sylvia would love to just take this pot down right now.
9.1.
Greg Merson may have something to say about that. Yeah, he's putting chips together.
Raise.
He says raise. He sees something fishy about Jesse's 3-bet. 18.4 million now.
I don't think Phil Ivey would have used 2 hands to make that 4-bet, but he's got to love it.
Merson flexes his muscle and takes down that pot with the final raise.
Greg Merson in control.
He's applying the pressure at the right time, and he's the man in charge right now. This is the World Series of Poker main event presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky.
For the last 5 main event champions, foreign-born, Michigan's Joe Cata did win in 2009, and now it will be either Maryland's Merson or Martha's Vineyard Sylvia. Merson actually born in Washington, D.C., Sylvia born in Malden, Massachusetts.
Merson with king 5 of diamonds and a min raise to 4 million. Sylvia
raised to 4 million.
Looks down at queen jack of spades on the Jack Link's Beef Jerky hole cam.
Now heads up, these are 2 strong suited hands. Before the main event final table began, Jesse said he had hoped to go heads up against his former roommate Russell Thomas. Jesse also said that Greg Merson was the best player at this final table.
Sylvia not going anywhere, as you said, with a very playable hand. And he actually re-raises to 9.5 million.
I'm not sure what's more surprising, that the Orioles were a contender in 2012 or that the chip leader at the main event is wearing an Oriole jersey.
An Adam Jones jersey.
All in.
Merson raises Sylvia all in.
Moment of truth for Jesse Sylvia. Main event title aside, Jesse would be getting the right price to call here, but he did start the hand with 35 big blinds, and I don't believe he thinks his hand is best right now.
So difficult to put your opponent on a narrow range of hands pre-flop, especially under these circumstances, especially heads up. This would be for all his chips.
I call.
And he makes the call. Sylvia at risk, but he's got 2 live cards.
So we have like a suited queen.
Greg Merson now 1 clean board away from main event glory.
I don't think Vanessa's too happy. Jesse's girlfriend, Ashley, is hopeful.
Merson stays in character. Just another day at the office. Sylvia joins his rail.
They're racing for Jesse's tournament life. Merson a clean board away from the title. The flop, 6 trade 9, no help for Sylvia. Merson 2 cards from the win.
Merson now a 3-1 favorite to become world champion.
Everyone on their feet. The turn card, another 6. Greg Merson, 1 card from a payday of 8.5 million.
Sylvia hit a 7-outer earlier against Merson to stay alive. Can he hit a 6-outer now?
Will it be all over for Jesse and his game?
Queen or a jack, or Greg Merson is world champion.
Will Greg Merson give up the chip lead here? And the river card is a 7. Sylvia is out. Greg Merson is the 2012 main event champion.
Good time, man. Congratulations.
They both played like champions. Greg Merson gets to call himself one.
Greg cleared so many hurdles on and off the felt to make this final table and has now announced himself as one of the game's brightest stars. Sylvia wins almost $5.3 million. A family that has been through so much together can now celebrate. Greg Merson puts his name on top of the most important leaderboard of the year, the final one. $8.5 million and his second bracelet of the year. Along with the main event, Merson becomes the World Series of Poker Player of the Year, surpassing Phil Hellmuth, who finishes second for the third time in his career. Let's go down to Kara Scott.
It's been an incredibly emotional day for you. Can you tell us, you've been so stoic at the table, you've been so even-tempered, you've been so balanced. Tell us what's going on inside now.
I mean, I can't really describe it. I feel like this is the same interview I gave in July when I won, because they just stick a mic in your face and I'm crying and I don't know, it's just absurd. It doesn't even seem like real life.
Everyone's been talking about how amazing your game has been. You're now also the Player of the Year at the World Series of Poker, and all I can do is congratulate you on that. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Congratulations. This is a bracelet that's fitting for a champion. And with us here, Jason of Beverly Hills, we're honored to present this bracelet to you, the 2012 WSOP champion. Congratulations.
Youth has served again, but for 24-year-old Greg Merson fighting his drug addiction, it must seem like it took several lifetimes for him to get here.
He could have been counted out more than once during this main event, but his perseverance and skills resulted in the ultimate payoff. Greg Merson came to this final table with a rich poker background and a rich life story. Tonight, he leaves Las Vegas a lot richer. To commemorate his impressive 2012, two banners will hang in the Rio. Greg Merson, main event champ, and World Series of Poker Player of the Year. For Norman, Chad, and Kara Scott, I'm Lon McCarran. Thanks for being with us this season. We'll see you again in 2013. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.